It happens on almost every walk. You are strolling through the park, holding the leash, when suddenly your dog stops. They drop their nose to the grass. They sniff intensely, bypassing dozens of blades until they find the exact right one. Then, they open their mouth and start grazing, like a tiny cow. You instantly freeze. You watch them chew, and a sinking feeling hits your stomach. You brace yourself. You wait for the inevitable sound of them gagging, coughing, and vomiting on your shoes. Because for generations, veterinary waiting rooms and dog parks have preached a singular, unquestioned dogma. If a dog is eating grass, they are violently nauseous. They are desperately trying to induce vomiting, right? Wrong. Completely wrong. We have all heard the myths. Myth number 1. They have an upset stomach and need to vomit. Myth number 2. Their expensive commercial diet is horribly deficient in roughage or fiber. Myth number 3. They are being stubborn. They are eating grass just to spite you and refuse your leash commands. But behavioral neuroscience tells a completely different story. Modern canine behavioral science has systematically dismantled these assumptions. Grass eating is not a desperate medical intervention. It is not an act of defiance. It is a highly complex, genetically hardwired interplay of foraging instincts, sensory stimulation, and gut-brain neurology. If you think your dog is just feeling sick, you have no idea what is actually happening inside their brain. Let's look at the hard data. The definitive refutation of the nausea myth comes from the University of California, Davis. In a massive, highly controlled statistical analysis of over 1,500 dogs, researchers tracked plant-eating behaviors. The results destroyed the old dogma. A staggering 68% of dogs consumed grass on a daily or weekly basis. But here is the bombshell. Only 8% of those dogs exhibited any signs of illness prior to ingesting grass, and only 22% vomited afterward. Dietary fiber supplements changed absolutely nothing. This behavior has zero connection to nutritional deficits or nausea. So why do they do it? Because this isn't just psychology, it's chemistry. When your dog stops to select, chew, and ingest specific blades of grass, it initiates a massive cascade of neurochemical shifts. This is not mindless chewing. This is highly regulated sensory foraging. It all starts with the seeking system. Rooted deep in affective neuroscience, outdoor olfactory foraging activates the mesolimbic dopamine pathway. The act of searching for the perfect blade of grass provides low-level, continuous dopaminergic rewards. They are getting a chemical hit of pure satisfaction. Every single time they rip a blade of grass from the earth, their brain releases a tiny burst of joy. But the benefits go way beyond a dopamine rush. Grass eating physically alters the rhythm of your dog's heart. A groundbreaking 2019 study out of Barnard College's Canine Cognition Lab proved it. Researchers fitted 15 domestic dogs with Holter monitors to track their electrocardiograms and heart rate variability. They compared dogs forced to walk in a strict heel against dogs allowed to naturally sniff and graze. The statistical findings were staggering. Allowing dogs to engage in natural environmental foraging significantly increased the time intervals between their heartbeats. It physically decelerated their heart rate. The mechanical act of chewing that fibrous plant matter stimulates the vagus nerve. It forces your dog's autonomic nervous system to shift. They move out of sympathetic arousal, the high-stress, high-alert state, often triggered by loud noises or leash walking. They shift into parasympathetic dominance, the rest and digest state. Grazing actively lowers their cortisol levels and modulates their serotonin. It is a physiological, self-soothing mechanism. When your dog stops to chew on a patch of grass, they are actively managing their own stress. They are finding absolute peace in the dirt. Then there is the unseen world of the microbiome. A 2020 clinical mapping out of Texas A&M University's gastrointestinal laboratory completely changed how we view dirty grass. Researchers used 16S RNA gene sequencing of canine feces to map the gut-brain axis. They discovered that environmental exposures, including eating outdoor plant material and soil microbes, are vital for a robust microbiome. The transient bacteria your dog consumes during a grazing session interacts with their immune system. It upregulates regulatory T cells. This mimics principles recognized in human clinical gastrointestinal research at institutions like the Mayo Clinic. They are literally eating biodiversity. But what if they are doing it constantly? What if they just want stop? A massive study out of the University of Helsinki looked at this exact phenomenon. Researchers analyzed behavioral data from nearly 14,000 Finnish pet dogs. They found that in 14% of the population, repetitive oral behaviors, like frantic grass eating, correlated with high generalized anxiety scores. When dopamine is lacking in barren, boring environments, dogs use the sensory feedback of tearing grass as a displacement behavior. They artificially regulate their serotonin to manage cortisol spikes. If your dog is profoundly bored, they will use grass as a biological fidget spinner. To label grass eating as an abnormal behavior ignores the entire genetic and evolutionary history of the dog. Dogs are not obligate hypercarnivores like domestic cats. They are opportunistic mesocarnivores. Their DNA is literally programmed to seek out and digest plant matter. In wild canid populations, grass eating is an inherited survival mechanism. It is called zoopharmacognosy, animal self-medication. A 2006 study on Yellowstone wolves revealed that plant material is found in up to 45% of wild wolf scats. Why? Because the undigested blades of grass wrap around intestinal parasites. They physically scour the gastrointestinal tract, purging worms from the body. Modern domestic dogs retain this deeply ingrained evolutionary motor pattern even when they are completely parasite-free. But the definitive proof of the dog's biological drive to eat plants lies in chromosome 2. In 2013, researchers at Uppsala University sequenced the whole genomes of 12 gray wolves and 60 dogs from 14 diverse breeds. They were searching for the genomic signature of domestication. What made dogs different from wolves? They identified 36 distinct genomic regions of positive selection. And right there, buried in their DNA, was the AMY2B gene. The AMY2B gene codes for alpha amylase. This is an enzyme specifically designed to digest starch and plant matter. While wolves possess only 2 copies of this gene, domestic dogs possess between 4 and 30 copies. Your dog literally evolved alongside early human agriculturalists to efficiently digest plant material. Grazing is a genetic right of the species. It is baked into their chromosomes. They were built to eat the earth. Need more proof? Look at the archaeological record. Researchers from the University of Tübingen and the Senckenberg Center for Human Evolution analyzed the Bonn Oberkassel dog burial in Germany. This remains one of the oldest known dog burials on Earth, dating back 14,200 years. Stable isotope analysis of the bones proved that these Paleolithic dogs did not eat a strictly carnivorous diet. They consumed a mixed diet of meat, tubers, and plant matter identical to their human companions. The behavioral loop of seeking and consuming vegetation has been hardwired for at least 14,000 years. But here is the paradox. While casual, selective grazing is the sign of a neurologically healthy, foraging canine, you must pay attention, because changes in this behavior are the ultimate warning siren. Owners must strictly monitor for two opposing red flags: the sudden, frantic escalation of the behavior, or the sudden, absolute cessation of the behavior. If your dog stops selectively picking individual blades and suddenly begins frantically tearing up grass by the mouthful, you have a massive problem. They have crossed from foraging to pathological pica. This frantic ingestion is the one exception to the UC Davis rule. When a dog swallows grass whole, rapidly, without the parasympathetic act of chewing, they are experiencing acute visceral pain. They are attempting to mechanically trigger the emetic reflex. Frantic grazing is a prime clinical indicator of severe underlying disease. It points directly to chronic enteropathy, inflammatory bowel disease, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. If they are tearing the grass out by the roots with wild eyes, do not ignore it. They are begging for clinical help. But the second red flag is completely silent. It is the sudden cessation of grazing. When a dog that has historically enjoyed leisurely grass eating suddenly stops over the course of weeks or months, owners miss it. They assume their dog is simply growing up or mellowing out. They are wrong. A dog will completely abandon the reward of grazing if lowering their head below their shoulders causes sharp neurological pain. The sudden cessation of grazing is often an early indicator of intervertebral disc disease, or IVDD, in the cervical spine. Their neck hurts too much to bend down. It can also signal osteoarthritis in the forelimbs. The physical act of leaning forward and bearing weight on the front legs while pulling at the grass becomes agonizing. If a lifelong grazer suddenly refuses to drop their head to the grass, you need to check their spine. You need to check their joints. They are hiding their physical pain from you, but their sudden loss of this deeply rewarding behavior is screaming the absolute truth. Finally, there is the most heartbreaking reason a dog stops eating grass: canine cognitive dysfunction. Dog dementia. As dogs age, the loss of exploratory foraging behaviors is a primary marker of neurodegeneration. In 2015, researchers at the University of Veterinary Medicine and Pharmacy developed the Canine Dementia Scale by evaluating 215 dogs. They found that one of the earliest statistical markers of onset dementia is the loss of environmental interaction and purposeful foraging. A dog with early cognitive decline will stand idly on the grass. They will just stare. They have completely forgotten the complex motor pattern of sniffing, selecting, and chewing. The disappearance of this primal 14,000-year-old behavior signals significant olfactory and cognitive decline. Up to 28% of dogs over 11 years old suffer from this. If they forget how to forage, their brain is fading. The next time your dog stops on a walk to carefully inspect a patch of grass, do not rush them. Do not yank the leash. Do not fear the vomit. Watch them. You are witnessing a 14,000-year-old genetic echo. You are watching their mesolimbic dopamine pathway light up. You are watching their vagus nerve actively decelerate their heart rate, bringing them immense parasympathetic peace. They are not broken. They are not sick. They are executing a perfectly designed biological masterpiece. They are claiming their genetic right to the earth. So let them graze. Has your dog always been a relentless grass connoisseur, or do they only do it in specific places? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe, because in the next video, we are breaking down exactly why dogs meticulously circle their beds before lying down. I promise you, the ancient science behind that nighttime ritual is even stranger than you'd expect.